Hi, my name is Mona Muhammad, and I am the owner of Knottyloop Creations. You can find my items at www.knottyloop.com. That's KNOTTYLOOP.com. Basically, Knottyloop Creations was a result of a dare. My daughter-in-law had saw a picture in a book, said, "Oh, I really love this," and I looked at the picture. I loved the dress, but it was quite expensive. And I told her, I says, "I can do that." And she said to me, "Well, Mom, I've never saw you crochet." And I says, "Well, it's been a long time, but I used to crochet." She says, "Well, I don't think you can do that." And she kind of, "I dare you, you know. I'm a sister from the west side of Chicago. Don't dare us to do too much." So not only did I make that outfit, I made 4 outfits for my sisters. It was coming up on the holidays, so everybody got an outfit. And they started wearing their outfits out, and people started calling me saying, "Hey, can you do this for me?" At first, it was, "Okay, yeah, well, I'll do it. You buy the yarn, I'll make it for you." So there's a lot of original designs out there that they pretty much got for a little bit of nothing, but that's okay. But after a while, it became, I was overwhelmed with the response. Not soon thereafter, I did my first fashion show, which again, my daughter-in-law got me involved in, the person that didn't believe I could crochet. And Knottyloop was born. The response was amazing. All of this started as a dare. So at first it was just fun, you know, I was making pieces for people and trying to learn the yarns. I think that's probably the most difficult part of it, trying to learn. I didn't want it to look like your grandma's crochet pretty much. I wanted it to be something more refined that looked like real clothing, that was light, you know, that had some flow to it. So trying to learn a lot about the yarns and the fabrics that I was using, that was a big part of it. Trying to find the right connections, people, you know, to work with, models, other designers I spoke to. So it was a lot of that, trying to get my feet wet and understand what the business was all about and what was expected of me as a designer. Again, I like my clothes to look like regular clothes. I'm not, you know, crochet offers its own uniqueness, but for people to really be attracted to it, if it was too far out there, you know, people would still have, you would have a limited audience. I guess that's what, so I wanted my clothing line to fit more of the mainstream, not to be so heavy, not to be so far, you know, out there on an artistic level that people would feel unnatural wearing them. So I wanted a natural flow to the clothes. So when I design, that's pretty much what I'm thinking about. How will it respond to, you know, if I make it into a pair of pants versus make it into a top versus making it into a hat? Because, you know, you're looking for a different texture in each one of those. When I design, I kind of think about those things. And so a lot of times I'm inspired by the yarn. You know, if people saw my stash, you'd think I was crazy, because I'm inspired by, you know, the text, the feel, the texture, type of material to work with, a unique texture. It brings a different dimension to standard clothing, because with Knottyloop and crochet, what you end up doing is you create your fabric as you work. Unlike buying fabric and cutting it, you're creating fabric and forming it at the same time. You know, forming it into a pair of pants or forming it. You're not cutting out a pattern. You know, even if it's your original design, I'm not taking away from another designer, but you're creating fabric as you work. Well, I have my degree, and I have a bachelor's in business, so I had to learn this business from scratch. I knew nothing about the fashion industry. If you asked me about fashion and design, the best I could tell you was that I used to take the curtains out of my mother's cedar chest, and we would drape them around and play in them, you know, like we were making gowns and dresses. But that was many, many years ago. I've had no training whatsoever. I didn't go to the design school. And it's a weird art because it just comes from within. I did not know that I could crochet the way I crochet. My mother taught me the basics, Claretta, and she taught me the basics of crochet. And she helped me a lot, you know, in the work that I did, and trained me a lot, but I took it to a different level. You know, she had said to me at one point, she says, "Where did you learn how to do this?" And I could not tell her. It just came from within. Once I started and opened up the door and opened up my mind to that, it just flowed. maybe it's artistic or it's the weirdness, I don't know. When I first started, I used to try to, alter patterns and, okay, I'll look at somebody else's crochet design, it's like, okay, I can make that dress and, I'll change it a little bit. And it was one night I went to sleep and I was like, man, I really want to do something different. I had new yarn and I wanted to do something different. And I said to myself, I says, what can I do that's different? Went to sleep, not even worried about it or thinking about it. Woke up the next morning, I knew absolutely what I wanted to do with that yarn. That was one of my first 100% my own design dresses. And so I called off work, don't tell my boss, but I called off work and I made my first dress. And from that point on, I think it just opened, again, that door opened and I was able to design freely, and every time I design one thing, somewhere in the middle of this design, another design pops up. So I know what my next design is going to be pretty much. Knowing what was needed, I did not automatically know what was needed. I did not have a checklist. Number one, I stepped out there on faith. That was the first thing that I did. Number two, I tried to, network with as many designers, and there were some who were very open, and there were some that was very closed about what they did. Spoke with a lot of models who were very encouraging, who were happy to wear my designs, which is very helpful. And some of the producers, I don't want to leave any of them out because they really were helpful in saying, yeah, that's really a good, or, they helped me stretch. And they would take a piece and says, well, have you thought about this? Or have, or give me some ideas or show me a design that says, that would look good in Crochet Girl, so a lot of that. I have seen a lot of growth. I have seen change. The doors have been opening, but I've still been branded pretty much within the Chicagoland area. For Knottyloop Creations, my overall goal, I've seen a lot of growth since I started this 10 years ago. A lot of people know my name. A lot of people, I was in the airport one day and the lady said, oh, Miss Knottyloop, finna traveler. And I was like, oh wow, she knew who I was. But the bottom line is I'm still kind of within the Chicagoland area. So my goal is to brand my name outside of Chicago, which means that there will be some travel, which, means I'll be on the road and some of that exhaustive work. But it's important that Knottyloop grows and not, stagnate. I want to see the name of Knottyloop grow, to brand outside Chicago, to brand outside the country, to eventually brand internationally. So that's my goal. This year, I've been in Ohio and Michigan. I'll be going back to Detroit for a pretty large fashion show, fashion expo actually, July. And I'm in Washington this year, so I'm definitely branching out. I've been invited to Texas, it's still on the books, and so if I want to make this work, those are the shows that I'll be doing next, just to get my name, spread out a little bit. I've worked regarding collaborations. Again, I can crochet all night long. I can make a rack of clothes, but without models to collaborate with, to wear these designs, nobody really gets the full effect of what the clothes look like. Without the producers to help me put on fashion shows or, to help me take it down the runway in the right direction, those things help. So there are unique collaborations, and I tell most people who are interested, don't be afraid. I was afraid at first. I remember my first fashion show, I was standing in the hallway, and that same daughter-in-law came up to me, and she says, what's wrong with you? Because I could not animate, I could not speak, I'm about to present, am I going to be laughed off the stage? That's the way I felt inside. And I actually got a standing ovation. So I would say to anybody that's interested in doing this type of work, step out there on faith. Believe in what you do, because it's going to be you might not be the best at what you do, but it's a learning experience. I think some of the most fulfilling moments that I have when I create, I'm an empty nester. My kids are grown and gone and doing well. And I'm not the babysitting grandmama, I'm the other grandmama that don't ever be still. So For me, when I'm creating, I'm alone 99% of the time. And I'm not ever sure whether I've gotten it right or not. So until a model comes in or a client comes back and they try on this outfit and I see that piece actually come to life, those are the fulfilling moments. Those are, because I still love my work. And when I see it come to life, I see, it takes shape and form and it flows right. Those are fulfilling moments that I get to live over and over again. It's not just the one piece or, the one recognition. I've had some recognitions, I'm proud of those, but to make my clients happy, still at the top of my list. Understanding that this is a business. It's all fun and games, to do the fashion show, to get the attention, to have the applause. All of that is beautiful, but there's taxes to be paid, there's yarn to be picked up, there's outfits to be dropped off, mailings to be done, and then you still have to have a social life. When people look at, they come and they visit my studio and they say, oh, look at all you've made. They need to understand that this is my social life that's sitting here, because I've chosen to do this, because I love what I do. So to try to find balance in all of that, because the house still needs to be clean, the dishes still need to be washed, so I can't let all of it go to my head when the lights are on and, we're having fun. Oh yeah, that's great. But, I still have to go home and feed the dog and take her for a walk and pick up her poop. So it's all about 100% balance, trying to learning that this is a business though, and understanding if you want to make it grow, you need to learn the business end of it. Because I think that's what I ignored for the first couple of years, and then you have to understand that I have to pay taxes, I have to, I have to report losses, I have to report gains. So all of that is important, finding the right balance. I say to people, and this is again some of my weirdness, I say to people all the time that you are a verb. And when I say that, I mean that people need to move to action. You cannot sit on the couch and say, oh, I have this great idea. It might be a great idea, but unless you move to action, unless you start the process of bringing your idea to life, it will never go anywhere. I'm creative. I am compulsive, I am careful, I am artistic, I am all of these things, but the thing that I have to remember that none of that happens unless I get out of bed, I make a plan, and I fulfill that plan. So you have to move to action.